What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
I'm Jammin Jon.
Rin.
And we have an album review for you, and one that honestly I didn't expect to be reviewing just because this band has been kind of gone for a while. And if I was going to review them, I figured it'd be a retro review, but here we are. So we're going to go over the first album in technically 32 years.
Wow.
From Morbid Saint, Swallowed by Hell.
Armored Angel.
Or that. It could be that.
Could be. John Bush and Pete Sandoval together at last.
I'd buy it.
Yeah.
This comes out on the 9th of February on High Roller Records. This band formed in 1984 in Sheboygan, Wisconsin.
Sheboygan.
It's just a fun word to say,
that's
right?
one of my favorite words.
Sheboygan and Floygan.
Like, that's a town so, like, aptly named that you don't get to abbreviate it. Like, you know, oh, it's S-Town or whatever. No, like, no, it's Sheboygan. You call it by its full name because it's awesome.
Hey, doctor, my Sheboygan's inflamed.
All the dairy. Now, this is their third full length, and again, technically their first one in 32 years. Their debut, Spectrum of Death, came out in 1990, kind of like an underground classic as far as thrash metal. And then they were going to follow it up with an album called Destruction System, which the demo came out in 1992, but the band ended up breaking up in 1994, and it kind of never saw the light of day except for, you know, bootlegs and such, which, yes, I own one of those. But they officially got back together around 2015, and around that time they put out Destruction System officially. And during this time, I guess they were actually working on a new album, which I was kind of shocked by because I wasn't sure if they were actually gonna like tour or do any of that stuff. I figured they were just trying to retain the rights. But lo and behold, they started cranking out singles last year, and I got really curious about them because this band packs such an aggressive thrash metal punch. I've been a fan of Spectrum of Death for, God, at least as long as the channel's been around, and I was really curious to see how they would follow that up, you know, not discounting Destruction System, but Spectrum of Death, that's the one for me.
I've never really listened to Morbid Saint because they've been going for 32 years, and although I've heard of them, I'd never listened to them. But looking them up, I kind of knew what to expect, and I was pleasantly surprised.
I'm more of a Armored Angel fan myself, but yeah, this is a name I've heard throughout the years, but I never listened to them, and I'm kind of angry at these guys. Why didn't you tell me? Hey, we got some stuff. You should listen to it.
And that brings us to right now, after jamming this new album, and in terms of like, is there any energy that is left off of this? Are they kind of just, you know, putting one out to reestablish the brand or anything like that? No, this album is furious from start to finish. This is just an absolutely vicious, tight, hyper-aggressive album. And, I mean, if you love riffs...
What the hell?
Oh my goodness.
What the hell?
Riffs, and then more riffs, and then more riffs. Played at the craziest speed. The picking speed, I think, if you heard Scott Ian play on the Bungle record and you thought that was fast, you were wrong.
You were still right.
Well, I mean, you were right, but
yeah.
you were wrong thinking that was the fastest picking speed because it wasn't. It's on this album.
Yeah, this album has more chugs than Kerry King's entire back catalog with Slayer. Like, it is just heightened aggression at all times. I was kind of waiting for, like, a break or a lull in the energy on this, and it never came throughout 47 minutes of just vicious tracks. And it doesn't waste any time. Right away, the opening song, Rise from the Ashes, just kind of just kicks down the door.
Thrash.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Machine gun riffs, well-placed little cymbal grabs and stomps, and you were just off to the races. And get ready, because that is pretty much the pace of this entire album. If you like your thrash at breakneck speed, that is kind of their only speed here.
Put on your running shoes.
The riffs are slick, aggressive, just vicious as hell. The vocals are very dry and throaty, pretty much like they've always been, like kind of screechy and just, you know, a little bit of raw lung behind them. Kind of similar to Razor. Honestly, there's a lot of comparisons I could make to this band with Razor, because Razor, admittedly, they kind of have one gear. And, well, Morbid Saint kind of has one gear on this, for at least for the most part, but it's a fast, aggressive gear. And honestly, the whole thing about this album is just kind of keeping the energy going.
Yeah, it seems like they always had tremolo going for the most part behind all the riffing. The song Bloody Floors, straight up death metal tremolos.
This band, like when they came in 1990, thrash had already kind of evolved. It was getting heavier, it was getting more aggressive, like those next tier of bands that were coming out, like Forced Entry and like Devastation. And to a degree, Possessed. I know Possessed is more of a death metal band, but there's always that debate. But thrash was getting notably more aggressive, and this band kind of just peaked with aggression right out of the gate with their debut. And I like the fact that they've kind of recaptured that on here, albeit with like more slick modern production, but the aggression and that full throttle sort of delivery is not dulled down one bit. In fact, at no point on here did I really think I was listening to a band that were in their 50s, or at least most of the original guys are. This sounds like a young, hungry, and pissed off band.
You guys got great arthritis medication.
Yeah.
If that's what's happening here. The drummer sounds like he's going to hurt himself. We couldn't figure out how old the drummer was. He sounds like a younger guy, but if it's another gentleman in his 50s, you were going to hurt something.
Your ankles.
I'm sure he's got a vitamin drip full of B vitamins and TRT and maybe a little methamphetamine just to take the edge off, and a Nuprin.
Speaking of rad drum work, songs like Fuck Them All that has just a non-stop double kick blast, or Bleed Them Dry, which has some really cool off-time accents, or the song Pine Tuxedo, which is one of my personal favorites. There's this really cool snare march turnover section that leads into one of the coolest balls-out breakdowns this band has, period. But the drum work on those songs, as in all of them, is just spectacular.
And despite how explosive this album is, pretty much on every track, there are some cool builds in terms of like leading with some atmosphere, or just kind of building up the song. Fear Incarnate opens up with like, a choir of screams. It sounds, it sounds like it was all sampled at Cedar Point. Like everyone just going down like that first hill and Millennium Force or whatever, pick your roller coaster. But you get into this marching blast, this really cool syncopated pattern with the drum and the bass, and then the riffs come in and match up. And it's very mechanical, like almost kind of like Decapitated or Fear Factory, like that level of syncopation. And then you are just off to the races as it just careens over you with machine gun riffs. And again, the hyper-aggressive nature of this album is something that I absolutely latched onto on here. This one is also a little bit different because the vocals kind of take a little bit of a break. Like they start off a little bit softer, at least in comparison, because a lot of the vocals in here are just shrieked and they're fast and just super aggressive. This one, he kind of restrains the scream a little bit and kind of builds towards it as they get to the chorus, which the chorus just hits the groove hammer hard. Like, all of a sudden you get these cool syncopated chugs, a good mid-tempo kind of groovy chorus on there with some cool gang vocals too, which I love the gang vocals on here. Even some of the dumbest lyrics or dumbest song titles, you put a gang vocal behind it, it kind of sounds just like a little bit cooler. And I mean, there's some kind of dumb titles in here, but they're all bitey, they're all fun, and of course they're all riffy as hell.
Yeah, the gang vocals and Fuck Them All are my favorite.
Yeah, that was what I was worried about. I was like, dude, I mean, at least they wrote Fuck Them All instead of like Fuck Them All, which sounds like a medication of some kind now. But they actually say it in like a gang chant, and I was like, you know what, that's kind of better than like squeezing it in like a sung chorus or something like that. It sounds tough at least.
Swallowed by Hell has good gang vocals as well. Yeah, pretty much all in all, Swallowed by Hell is just an awesome song. Even though the intro, I can't tell if that's Dr. Claw or Skeletor or something. Somebody's saying something spooky about something, and then it's just drop kick in the chops and you're getting mowed over 15,000 times.
There's some really cool syncopated triplets on there, and they harmonize them too, which I think is really cool. Like, there are like really catchy melodies in here, but they're done just very aggressively. Like a lot of the lead work on here, I would say, is very melodic. Like you get a lot of like big sweeping, like ascending melodies and such, but you also get like a fair amount of like just huge dive bombs.
A lot of dive bombs.
The kind of the standard thrash stuff, but there's a lot of good like melodic hooks that pop up. Like Bleed Them Dry, that syncopated little bounce that is kind of in that riff. It's a very melodic, intricate riff, but that extra little bounce and kind of like popping it, it creates its own little interesting hook.
It seems to have the most instrumental section in that song, I thought. Bleed Them Dry, the whole solo section kind of went a lot of different places. Different tempos and structures and whatnot.
Now, as balls out as this album is, it's not without at least mid-tempo moments. There's never a time where it slows down to halftime.
Yeah.
Even a breakdown per se. There's one maybe in Pine Tucks and one maybe in Psychosis. But it's not without mid-tempo groove. Songs like Fear Incarnate, Bleed Them Dry, Pine Tucks, Killer Instinct, all those at least have some cool mid-tempo sections. And they're always beefed up by these massive triplet chugs. Just all the time. That's how they beef up a riff. They just throw in a triplet chug, and sometimes it ascends, and sometimes it descends, and sometimes it has harmony, but that's about as slow as it gets.
Yeah, Killer Instinct kind of comes in like Raining Blood. Mm-hmm. Like, it just has this isolated, triplet chug. Like, it's that same galloping pattern, and it just kind of stomps in. But the last track, Psychosis, is honestly, it has one of the nastiest chugs in the entire album. Full of nasty chugs.
Yeah, it's a lot of chugs.
Yeah, I mean, that's virtually every song. Every song in here has some ultra heavy, headbangable, chuggy riff that you're just going to get stuck on. But Psychosis, the last track, it's where it sounds more mechanical and heavy. And again, a little bit of that death metal kind of creeps in just in terms of like the riff structure and just like the tone and vibe of it.
I thought it was akin to Fear Factory, actually. And then it starts to sound like Testament after that. When the vocals kick in, the melody in the vocals and the melody in the riff and the gallop and D beat it's at just reminded me a lot of Testament.
Yeah, and every now and then you get some stuff that is like a little bit different, like Bloody Floors. I don't understand that song title either. Yeah. But that actually has some blackened tremolos in it. Like, cold, icy melodies that come in. And, I mean, it gets cold in Wisconsin. Everyone knows that. But it's a little bit different from kind of what the bulk of this album is, which is just thrashy aggression.
As far as negatives are concerned, I don't really have too many, except maybe the fact that there were a couple of times where I thought they were setting up for a really like slow, heavy groove and it never happened.
That's it.
At the end of Killer Instinct, it was the one and only time where I thought they were going to have a super heavy, almost like breakdown riff. At the end of Killer Instinct, there's a dive bomb.
Big old.
Big old. And you're like, yeah! And then it just kicks back in.
Whammy.
Yeah, that's really my only gripe.
Yeah, this album never really gets down to like the halftime groove. Like it gets down to the mid-tempo one. Like you get some mid-tempo ones in here. Burn Pit is arguably a little bit slower because it's like a double time. Yeah, but I mean eventually it thrashes its way out.
Yeah.
But it never slows down really. Like it's just constantly going. But at the same time, that's kind of like that whole sustained momentum that is carried throughout this album that I really dug. Outside of that, I mean, yeah, some of the song titles are a little, I don't know, like kind of stock on some of them. But musically, I don't know. It's kind of smart about being dumb in a way. Because, I mean, you look at the song titles like, all right, this feels kind of stock. But when you listen to music, like, oh, wow, there's a lot going on here. And it's going really fast. I will say, however, this album cover is something else.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
This is definitely very Repka. I don't understand what's going on, so I had to come up with some sort of narrative. I'm reasonably sure this gentleman's name is Daryl, our focal character in here. Before the Wisconsin apocalypse, I think his hobbies were collecting commemorative plates and DUIs. After the Milwaukee apocalypse, he spent his time being a one-man army fighting the government that somehow snuck into the only Applebee's left in Wisconsin and took Leonard Skinner off the playlist. After that, well, I mean, you see what happens. And yeah, no, he's probably about 9 or 10 tall boys in the day. So yeah, that's all I got. Other than that, I think that's the only shirt he probably owns. Yeah, I don't quite get this album cover. I don't know. It doesn't match anything on this album because this album is just, well, I mean, yeah, sure, that's aggressive, but it's like dumb aggressive. Like very cartoony aggressive. Like this has like real aggression to it, and there's like some cool sinister moments on it. There's nothing about this album cover that screams Morbid or Saint. Like neither one.
True.
Outside of that though, this is absolutely awesome. Like this is just full tilt, hyper aggressive thrash metal, and it's pretty much a no breaks run from start to finish. There was not a drop off of energy at any point on here. And I think the only way you wouldn't like this is if you hate fast, aggressive thrash. which, yeah, stay away from this band then.
Yeah.
Totally not for you.
No.
Me personally, I'm going to give this 4 stars. I dig the hell out of this. I'm going to jam the hell out of this. This was kind of the comeback I wasn't expecting, just because I wasn't sure if this band was ever going to surface again. And man, they came out absolutely swinging. Like, this is kind of on par with the Sadist album that came out last year in terms of just going for it. Like, the energy is there. The riff work is unbelievably tight. There's cool flashy bass work too. There's good song building. And I mean, if you just love riffs and aggression, this album, jam it front to back. If you're a big fan of even like thrashy or death metal, like Malevolent Creation or Vader or Possessed, but I mean, you know, if you're a big fan of just high octane thrash, like even like Sepultura around Beneath the Remains, check this out. It's absolutely awesome.
I'm going to give this record 4.5 stars. This is a riffy, speedy banger in a world full of new bands that surface all the time and try to do thrash. Morbid Saint says, hold my cheese. This record is faster than a paycheck spent on band merch. Just nonstop, everything's entertaining. Even the hooks that they use are oftentimes the coolest syncopated triplet chugs, and it's nonstop. The lead work is awesome. It goes anywhere from just a squawky, quick little shreddy lead to full-on neoclassical leads. The drummer, again, is gonna hurt himself if he hasn't already. Sir, you must tell me what your arthritis medication is, because I could use it. It's a nonstop banger. I liked every track. Yeah, if you're a fan of Enforced, Slayer, Municipal Waste, Sadist, a little bit of Pantera Groove, Razor for sure, I just recommend checking this out. This is a good time record, super aggressive. The old schoolers still got it.
Yep. 4 for me. Great songs, great tones, good vocals, fast, Riff City sweeps and dive bombs, and I don't understand. I'm angry at you old bastards. Where were you when I was a teenager? 6, 7, 8 years ago. Could have used you then. I am going to get the album cover tattooed on my chest, I believe. I think that's probably my next move. I like it. I'm going to listen to this a lot. I don't think I absorbed it all because it was fast coming at you. And I like it. Armored Angel. Check it out.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below at thrallsmetal.com. Our Patreon link is there. It is also on our channel down in the right-hand corner at the bottom on our banner. But if you're looking for Thralls Metal stuff, you have to go to thrallsmetal.com. We have shirts there. We have old shirts at a discounted price, provided we have your size. And we also have hats. So if you're looking for any of that stuff, the link down below. Click it.
Tons of stuff coming from Thralls of Metal, album reviews, we got discography rankings, the Black Dahlia Murders coming up, and then after that, Meshuggah. Nick has collection updates because, you know, he likes to buy CDs. What's John Jammin' is going to make a return, I promise. I promise. Let me get through what the hell is happening in my life, and it will come back. But we couldn't do any of this without you guys. Thank you to each and every one of you that is still giving us support throughout these years here. We're up to 5 years now. We appreciate you guys who continue to talk to us, which doesn't make a lot of sense because I know us. But it makes sense to you, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, it's been an amazing run so far, and again, we have tons of stuff planned for you. And yeah, this year has already kind of kicked off with a lot of like really solid stuff. So who knows, this year may be even bigger than 2023, which that was quite a year for music. Big year. So yeah, who knows? I mean, it's kind of, you know, wide open for us. But yeah, thank you so much once again, and we will catch you later.